Hey, Brooke.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you today?
Good. It's good to see you.
Likewise. I love to see you every Monday. It's like a
I
little ray of
know.
sunshine.
Yeah.
Fabulous. So let's see how many people we get in here today.
Yes, let's do it.
I was like 300 something registered. I just think that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
still think that's crazy. But
Like
we still haven't
318.
broken much over 100, no matter how many register. I wonder.
Yeah. We'll see what today has in store.
Yeah, Mara and I always compare to see who has the sexier topic that day. I'm like, I had 75, and she'll be like, I had 95. Yellow was sexier today. And I'm like, okay, you just never know.
I love it. That's awesome. Hmm.
All right, I'm going to start letting these people in here.
Okay, sounds good.
Welcome, everyone. We will be starting in 2 minutes. Greetings to everyone saying good afternoon in the chat. I'm so glad you're here today. And to the people who have their cameras on, I appreciate seeing your fabulous faces today. Thank you. All right, I have that it is 2:30, so let's get started. Thank you for joining us for engaging parents and families in the learning experience. I am here representing Solved, your professional development experience creator, and this content comes from the New York State Department of Education and their TAIL Academy, which is teaching across learning environments. So we're thinking about how to engage families, not just in person, but in any kind of environment that we find ourselves in. I just want you to be aware that this is being recorded today, and that you will receive a copy or a link to the recording after this session is done. You will receive all of the information as well as how to get, or you will receive your CTLE credits. So know that is coming in a follow-up email. Please take a moment to read our meeting norms. If you are able to have your camera on today, it's really helpful to those of us involved when you go in breakout rooms as well. So I appreciate you being here and smiling at us if possible. I also want you to know that this blue Post-it start and end on time absolutely will happen. And I ask just that you try and be here now. I know you have a lot to do. You're busy. You have a lot to do after we leave today, but the more present you can be today, the more you'll get out of this experience. So let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Caroline Hoppenwasser. I'm an instructional consultant at Solved. I have a doctorate in literacy education, And for over 20 years, I've been an educator both in public schools as well as preparing teachers and literacy specialists at the State University of New York in New Paltz. So I'd love to hear in the chat who you are. You can tell us the grade or grades you teach, the subjects you teach, or your particular role at your school. I'd love to know a little bit more about you. So take a moment and put that in the chat for us. While you do that, I'm going to go over our agenda with you today. We've got some essential questions. What are the fundamental building blocks of family engagement? And how can I build a strong relationship with families across learning environments? So our objectives are to identify the 3 building blocks of effective family community engagement, identify some strategies for building family engagement, and set some goals for ourselves. So I'm looking at all of your wonderful check-ins here. We've got so many different grade levels, so many different, oh my goodness, coming from different schools, different grades. And what's wonderful about this is we all come together, whether you're in kindergarten, you're in high school, you're special ed, you're the regular classroom, your art, it doesn't matter. We're all trying to bring families more into engagement with our schools, and we can bring all of these different pieces to bear in whatever particular environment we find ourselves. All right, so I want to share with you in the chat, I'm going to put a copy of something I call the note catcher. It is everything you need and every resource we're going to have today. So you can put it in and make a copy. It's going to ask you to make a copy. And it will look like this. It's going to start with our slide deck, so you can have access to that. And then everything that I ask you to do or think about today is there's going to be space for you here. So you can use it today to guide you through and let you keep track of our journey today. You can also refer back to it later. And I'm just going to double check my permissions. Anyone with the link should be able to edit. So I'm going to put it in our chat one more time so that you can access it. There's our note catcher. All right, let's do another sort of check-in in our chat. You've been sharing who you are. And now I want you to think about and share with us right now, what do you consider your biggest asset when working with families? Or you might share, what is your biggest challenge? So just whatever you put, you can put asset and share your thought, or you can put challenge and share your thought. Or I'd be happy for you to unmute yourself and come and speak with us. Oh my goodness, there's so many of you with your cameras on. That makes me so happy. So I'd love it if some of you would come off mute and share either an asset you have right now working with families or something that's a challenge for you working with families. Christy's biggest asset is being bilingual. That is amazing. I have always wished that for myself. Mauricia's, and please excuse me if I mispronounce your name. I'm going to do my best to say it, and you may always come on and correct me.
You got it right.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Sometimes I feel like the challenge is being honest and finding the right words to say and staying professional. Sometimes that can be a challenge, especially if you're with
Your font is
the
okay
student
with
for
it?
a couple
I
of
mean,
years.
not the font, the.
I'm sorry, say that last part again.
Oh, yeah, no.
Me?
Yes.
Sometimes
No,
I
it's
find it
okay.
hard to stay professional.
No, this thing's.
Finding the right words to talk to the parents, especially if I've been working with them for a couple of years. Since I'm in a special needs community, I have my students for several years at a time.
Oh, interesting. So, thank you for sharing that, Edwin. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm seeing some other assets come in.
What are you thinking about?
I work with some families over multiple years to develop long-term relationships. And so the challenge is also I work with a lot of families. So another challenge would be getting families on board with their son's academic and behavior needs. Never having enough time to communicate. Good, respectful communication. And I think that could be a challenge and an asset. And it just depends on so many factors, right? So one of the tricky parts of figuring out how to have really great communication with families is there's so many different kinds of families, so many different kinds of teachers, so many different ways to communicate or possibly miscommunicate. So we're going to, I really appreciate all of the things you're sharing in the chat. So please make sure I'm not able to read all of them. Make sure you're going through the chat and reading the comments of your peers. All right, so you already have some assets identified. You already have some challenges identified. And what we're going to do now is think about coming into something that all of us have to do as teachers, which is conference with parents in some way. And this particular story is coming from the point of view of a parent and that parent's experience of the communication from the school. So this is about 4 minutes. I want you to just think about what is the parent viewpoint from this video, how it aligns or doesn't align with your teaching experiences or practices, as well as any questions or comments. And we'll talk about it afterwards. So please let me know. I believe I've set it up so you can hear the sound, but be sure to let me know if you cannot in the chat once we get started.
Trust, transparency, and capacity. Rethinking family engagement across learning environments. Welcome. This is Session 2 in Module 5 of the TAIL Academy. When education professor Jung-Ah Choi attended her kindergartner's first parent-teacher conference, you can bet she came prepared with questions and discussion points. An academic in the field of education, Choi was excited to enter into a partnership with her son's teacher and looking forward to a conversation centered around learning and development. Choi later reflected in her article, "Why I'm Not Involved: Parent Involvement from a Parent Perspective." I left the conference feeling disappointed, humiliated, and dumbfounded. I had expected something fundamentally different. I expected to have a conversation with the teacher. I expected the teacher to ask questions about Michael's family life. I expected a true parent-teacher partnership for the benefit of his education. I expected the teacher to take an interest in my approach to raising Michael. But all I heard from his teachers, that year and the next, was information about where he stood on the spectrum from struggling to smart and where he stood on the obedience spectrum, from disruptive to respectful. Choi goes on to detail the implicit bias that provided a basis for the teacher's assessment of her son's social interactions. She points to the absence of genuine two-way communications that particularly hurts immigrant and non-white families like her own. Disinterest in her family's lifeways and her son's funds of knowledge deeply disappointed a parent who was primed by educational background, training, and disposition to be involved in school. Ultimately, Choi chose to politely bow out of interacting with teachers who did not get to know her or the cultural context in which she was raising her child. When Michael first started school, Choi's email inbox was flooded with requests to help with fundraising, chaperoning, and organizing class parties. Choi's disappointment in her school partnership was also connected to the role she was allowed to have in the school. She recalls, "When I looked through the list of parent involvement opportunities, I found, to my dismay, almost nothing that would truly support learning. Under the terms of this partnership, the teacher did not collaborate with the parent to support family goals, and the parent did not have a meaningful role in supporting school goals." Choi was left wondering, parent involvement for what? In her study of teacher perceptions of parent involvement, educational researcher Mary Christianakis observed that teachers equated parent involvement with parents providing free labor for teachers, specifically by managing student behavior. The teachers in the study, however, did not talk about or treat parents as partners or intellectual equals. They did not collaborate with the parents to support home or family goals, as is implied by the term partnership. Parents can be viewed as uncaring or incompetent when they do not participate in school-approved parent involvement activities, such as volunteering or attending parent-teacher conferences. In this view, parent involvement is a set of actions or behaviors that families must engage in to support their child's education and be seen as caring. We can think of this as a deficit-based view of parent involvement. In this deficit view, parents are socialized as passive listeners, clients, or fundraisers to comply with school norms and agendas. To move beyond a deficit lens, we have to demote traditional parent involvement activities and promote the lived experience of families and school environments. To develop a school experience that is respectful, inviting, and constructive, schools and teachers have to move beyond involvement to engagement. Just as we take responsibility for engaging our students.
All right, so in this video, I ask you to consider the parent viewpoint and how this aligns or doesn't align with your teaching experiences or practices, questions or comments. So what I really want us to think about is whether you or your school, and it's not going to be one or the other, it's going to be a combination, but are there things you're doing that come and consider parents from this deficit view? Ooh. Or are you coming and engaging with families in other ways? So I would love to hear your response either in the chat or if you would come and talk to us about what you think about the parent viewpoint from this video and how it applies to your school and what is happening in your classroom or school right now. I'm going to give you a moment to type in the chat or feel free to come off mute.
All right.
Catherine, you've come off mute. Did you do that to talk to us or was that an accident? I think that was an accident. I'm reading that one engagement, I engage with parents during dismissal and try to have one positive to tell each parent about their child every day. So in the video, this person is having, this particular person who wrote this article is having trouble feeling like they were being asked to do work, but not engage in learning. And I wonder if we have families as learning partners. Bethany says at our school once a month, parents can come in and observe their child's work and engage in activities with the class. Kelly does communicating and posting pics and videos through Class Dojo, which is showing learning as well as what the class is actually doing throughout the day. Ooh, oh, it's playing again. Hold, please. There we go. So let's think about this. On your note catcher, you have a table that looks like this. And it is currently, you've been putting some ideas in here, but let's think about it even more specifically. We have, the TAIL Academy was designed to help us think about capturing the things we learned that worked well when we went from teaching in class during the pandemic to what they call emergency remote teaching, or ERT. So when you think about what were family engagement strategies you used that worked before emergency remote teaching? And what were some that you switched to and used during the pandemic? So they're calling that emergency remote teaching. And what that can help us do then is we want to come up with what are we doing now? So how are we using the best of both of those strategies? For example, on your note catcher, the example is before, maybe we were just doing in-school parent conferences. During the pandemic, we couldn't do any. And now we're thinking about ways we can bring in both to meet the needs and engage our parents. Beverly says parents are not true partners in their child's education, according to the video. However, weekly communications via phone call check-ins are ways that we engage parents. And Beverly, I'd love if you would share, if you feel comfortable, or Philippe, or any of the people in the chat who are saying you do communicate regularly, what are the kinds of things that you communicate with families to let them know they're learning partners with you?
Good afternoon, Beverly here.
Hey, Beverly.
Hi. So on a weekly basis, on a Tuesday, we set aside time to call parents just to share with them, students' performance. We tend to call parents when we're having challenges with their behaviors. But at our school, what we do is to communicate the good. Most times we communicate what is going well. How is the child performing? We want to find, if a child is not at school, what were some of the things that would have impacted this child from not coming to school? So those are some things that we do on a weekly basis. Students with special education needs, we really engage those parents a little bit more because we really want to know, are there any changes? What are some of the things that we should know that so those are some ways that we communicate with our parents.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love the focus you have, Beverly, on what's going well. What are we doing well? Because the one of the points from the video is showing students just like, here's all the things that might be going wrong, but we want to say what is going well. So in addition to what is going well, there are some other things we can think about and ways to take that to a level where we can help parents be really full-time partners with us in continuing the work of learning and helping students perform the best that they can. And so we're going to talk now about some of the building blocks. And somehow I've drawn a red line on my screen and I don't know how, so you're just going to have to look at it. I'm so sorry, but let's look at the building blocks of family engagements and how we can strengthen each one. So here they are: trust, transparency, and capacity. And that video talked about we want to shift from family involvement to family engagement, and by bolstering each of these building blocks, that's what we're doing. And it starts with the understanding that traditional forms of school engagement are often focused on middle-class values and resources and may not be accessible or desirable to all families. So when we think about that, middle-class resources might be that work hours are the same as school hours, so we can talk after school or before school. Whereas if we have a different group, we may have the work hours are not compatible with meeting teachers when it's available for teachers. And how are we thinking about that? Is there access to childcare? What are past experiences in school for families that we're working with? So we have to think about how we are building trust, transparency, and capacity for all types of families and family configurations. And it requires us to rethink engagement from something that families do to help us to something we do together to help students. So that is what the woman in the video was talking about when she said it's all the communications need to be help us with a bake sale, help us with this in class, help us by providing these supplies. Instead, it's what can we do together to help students? So let's start with trust. We're going to do a little bit on each of these, spending the most time on capacity building. But research on trust shows that schools with high relational trust with families were much more likely to demonstrate marked improvements in student learning. So all parties understanding that one another's expectations and obligations helped everyone validate expectations. And that leads directly correlates to student improvement. So that's the why we're doing it. And then this next slide is factors that build trust. So they've broken them down into 4 big categories. But what I want us to do is go through some of them. And in the chat, I'd love you to put either like a little smiley face or a yes if you're doing some of these things. So when we looked at respectful social discourse, that's what does it look like? And then portable or integrated TEL practices means what are ways we can implement this across learning environments? And that means in our physical classroom, in a hybrid situation, or in an entirely online situation. So when we want to establish norms for listening and speaking, things like developing a class website where class meeting norms, agendas, and minutes can be housed. So is there anyone out there who's doing that where you're, you know, in your classroom, you probably have posted your school rules. Do you have it available on a in a digital way that families who can't necessarily come to your class are able to engage with it on your classroom website? Oh, I'm getting some smiley faces. Yes. A transparent agenda with timekeeping and facilitation, or recorded action steps and follow-up. So do you have a live document of involvement ideas, a parent bill of rights in Google Docs where families can contribute ideas and there's a way to look at those together? So I think sometimes we think about a student bill of rights and we might create rules and guidelines for how we behave in school with our students, but are we doing that with families so they know what they can ask for and what they're expected to do and what they can expect you to do with them as the teacher? Classroom rules are shared on Dojo. We have choice charts and encourage parents to use at home to encourage positive behavior. So you're trying to encourage sort of an extension of how you set up rules at school with at home. And my question for that is it a two-way street? So are you looking at ways parents are looking and using rules and building capacity at home and bringing them back into the classroom? So what we're looking for is two-way back and forth communication. If you have rules shared on Dojo and families can see it, what way do you have for families to communicate how well these rules meet the expectations and how they're done or what they do at home that matches or doesn't match what's happening, so that you're having a dialogue? You can think about it with, oops, excuse me, I went too far. And you have the link to this, so you can look at all of them. I just want to hit on some more. Competence and core responsibilities, such as following up on conversations and interactions. And the portable practice, it says, is use back to school night or conferences to inform families of your communication methods and establish personal norms for speaking and listening. This can be done virtually or in person, include a translator if needed, and ask for feedback using web-based surveys. So what this module is asking us to do is not just provide the information, but get the feedback from parents about how what they understand about it and what questions or ideas they have about it. So Edwina says we use Google Classroom and have checklists for appropriate behaviors they can also follow at home. So again, what is the feedback, the method of feedback parents have for that? So it becomes a conversation. And all of those different things build trust with families because they know that you're listening to them as well as imparting information to them. So the next two big building blocks are transparency and capacity, and they go together really well. So we're going to watch another short video clip to think about transparency and capacity, and then learn about a particular model that's recommended to help build on the classroom conference and making it a really amazing way to be both transparent with data and build capacity of families to engage in the school environment. All right.
Data sharing with the intent to create clarity, trust, and accountability is a way to engage parents in the core mission of a school. Parents need information they can use. What is their child supposed to be learning? Is their learning on track? What can they do to help? The Academic Parent-Teacher Teams model, referred to by the acronym APTT, is a non-bake sale approach to family engagement. In this model, traditional parent-teacher conferences are replaced by 3 data sharing meetings a year. Teachers and parents gather to discuss learning in very specific terms. Each family also participates in a 30-minute coaching session between the teacher, student, and parents. Through this process, families gather concrete information on grade-level learning targets and their children's academic progress. They work with their teacher to learn skills and strategies they can use at home. The third and final principle for family engagement is capacity. The APTT model is a great example of capacity building. Research into effective capacity building interventions identifies a set of process conditions which must be met for adult participants to come away from a learning experience with new knowledge and the ability and desire to apply it. The APTT model meets these conditions in the following ways: connecting families to the teaching and learning goals for students, focusing on relationship building between home and school, empowering families and school staff to be confident, knowledgeable, and informed, conducting learning in group settings that promote opportunities for shared learning, providing opportunities to practice and apply new skills. The dual capacity building framework looks at capacity building and family engagement as 2 concurrent streams: capacities that are developed in families and capacities that are developed in school personnel. By providing training and professional development to teachers and families together, both parties can build and apply skills that enable them to be confident, active, and knowledgeable partners in the effort to improve student
Okay, so let me
data
ask,
sharing with the intent.
let me ask this. Does anyone currently who is here with us use the academic parent-teacher team model at their school, where in addition to meeting with your families 3 times a year to discuss data, you also have coaching session where you're teaching the parents, not only, you're not just saying this is what we're trying to do, but you're coaching and teaching ways that they can help students meet those goals. I'm watching the chat to see if there's anyone out there doing that. It's very quiet. All right, so this model is a replacement of traditional parent-teacher conferences, and it becomes more of a data sharing meeting. It has a coaching component where the teacher is coaching parents to help them be able to use this data in a meaningful way and share skills and strategies to use at home. So what I want us to do now is take some time to learn some more about this model. And what I want you to think about as you're doing that, you're going to look at your note catcher, and activity 3 says extend learning on capacity building. So you have 2 choices of a video to watch. They're each about 6 minutes. And I would like you to choose one, just one of them, and take notes to learn more about this APTT model. And I want you to think about, in particular, what you've learned, what you still wonder about it, and ideas for how you might use this in your current classroom. And it doesn't have to be, oh, we're going to totally switch and just do this. It's what pieces of this might I start to think about implementing? So how can I modify so that I'm using some really great ideas that I've learned today to start building this new process. All right, so here's your job right now. You're going to open your note catcher. If you don't have it, we'll put it in the chat again. We have a wonderful helper today. Her name is Brooke. She's, when I say things, she makes them magically happen. So that's, Brooke, please make the note catcher show up again. You're going to pick one link and learn about more about this model. And then after about 6 to 7 minutes, I'm going to put you into a breakout room with others so that you can discuss your notes. What did you learn? What do you still wonder? And how might you use this and implement it in your educational setting? So if you have questions, please let me know. And if you do not, please choose which of these resources you're going to engage with and begin doing so, using this note catcher to guide your thoughts, and be prepared to discuss this in about 6 to 7 minutes in a breakout room. I have someone asking about breakout rooms. I'm setting them up now while you engage with your resource. So they'll be available soon.
I have a quick question. Where do I see find the
Yes.
video?
When
Video-
you see the table, you should be able to click on the title here,
Mhm.
and it will be a link to the video. Let's see if it's, yeah. So it goes right to the video. Does that work for you?
Right.
Or if you click on this one, it will take you to this video.
The one I want to look at is the one before, but I'm not seeing this one. Okay.
I'm going to copy the link and just pop it right into the chat, and maybe that will work better for you.
Okay.
Try that.
Excuse me, I'm having trouble as well. Could you copy the second link as well?
I would be happy to.
You.
Certainly. I'm sorry that's not working. All right. There are both of the links.
Hello, what are we supposed to be doing again? Because I'm trying to see the video and stuff.
We are now, I'm opening the breakout rooms. Hopefully you've had time to engage with your video. And you're going to, in your breakout rooms, discuss what you learned and how you, some ideas for how you might apply it in your teaching. So I am opening the rooms now. You should see a link that's asked you to join. If you have any trouble for some reason joining, please let us know, and Brooke and I will attempt to help you. When you're in your breakout room, please unmute yourself or turn your camera on so other people will know you're there and are ready to talk. Anyone who is still in this room and can hear me, if you need help, please let me and Brooke know so that we can help you find your breakout room.
Hi, I somehow got out of the room by accident. Could you put me back in, please?
Sure, let's see where you are. Do you see her, Brooke?
Let me look.
Was Antoinette?
I thought it said 12, but I'm not sure. I clicked it too quickly.
I'm just trying to find your name, Antoinette, so I can move you somewhere. So hold on one moment. Oh, there you are.
Oh, good.
I'm just gonna move you to a different room and hopefully a new invitation will come.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, that worked for her. Yay. We moved someone successfully.
Mhm.
It's a little tricky when you have 18 breakout rooms.
Yeah.
You have 120 people.
Exactly.
People keep ending up in the waiting room, bless their hearts.
Mhm.
I can see some rooms people are talking and some they are not.
Yeah.
I sent out a message encouraging them. I will try that again. Brooke, can you see? You can't see the breakout room information, or can you?
I
You
can.
right? What if you and I do some research, some reconnaissance, and go to a couple of these rooms where it looks like no one is talking or has their camera on to see if we can see what's going on?
Okay.
Just to find out if we can see. So I'm gonna start with room 7.
Okay.
You go to a different one.
Sounds good. Okay.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
this is something that affected children around the world.
I got good information, Brooke. We'll talk about it later. So as you're coming back to the room, to our main room, it would be wonderful if in the chat you could share anything you discussed in your breakout room. We had, what did you learn? What do you still wonder? Or any ideas you have for using this information. I also did talk to some people who had some technical difficulty with engaging with the video. And when we do our professional development forum at the end, if you had any trouble, please let us know, because that helps us fix it for next time. And I apologize if you had any technical trouble today. So yes, could you, is there, or someone who would like to come off of mute and share? Yes, I realize, Maria, now that a lot of people using cell phones had trouble, and that's something we didn't realize. So now we can plan for that. I appreciate you sharing that. Is there anything from your discussion in your breakout room that hopefully some of you are able to have that you could share with us, some takeaways today?
I would like to share.
Thank you.
When I was watching the video, I really enjoyed seeing like the strategy that they were using, like that it seemed like everybody was getting closer together and having better relationships. Like the parents seemed to be enjoying their time with the teachers, and the teachers were enjoying their time with each other while they were planning these things. And I like that they were giving the parents tools to use at home, because what I said in my group is that I know when we do parent-teacher conference, it's so brief that the parents will ask, oh, how can I help my kid? And basically what we can say is, oh, make sure they're reading every day, and here's some websites that they can use, but not really anything where they can interact with their children. So the fact that they have the time to teach the parents and give them tools to help their kids at home, I love that.
Chrissy, I think that's one of the most powerful parts of this model as well, where there's a coaching component where you're helping parents learn exactly what to do. So yes, and again, I know there's a lot of people out there thinking, where do they find the time? And that's something where, as you start to share this with other teachers or administration at your school, when you look at the big takeaways, it's the impact is so great. Where do we create the time for that, so that because if that's really important to us, we can find time for it, right? It's just like we know that when the school can, something they decide is really important, they will find some money for it. So how can we help guide that? Anyone else who would like to share? I like that the model would be consistent across the school. Yeah, Robert shared that. I like that as well. It's something that you can think about and start in your own classroom, but it's something that's really you hope will guide the whole school climate. And imagine the power if in kindergarten and in the elementary school, it started there. And in your district, every school used it. So when you went through each grade level, it happened. When you went to middle school, it happened. When you went to high school, it happened. The relationships built with families and the empowerment to help for families to help their students grow as learners would be phenomenal.
One of the things I noticed that on the video that they said that they had teams, but in the group I was in, I didn't talk much, but I was listening. Parent participation was low. How do we engage and create outreach components that could be part of that team? I think that would be one of the things that would be needed to try to engage our parents to even come to the school.
Mark, that's a really great point, and I'm going to let it lead us into this next slide I've just shared. And it's a slide of family engagement strategies and their impact on student learning. So on this side, on the left-hand side, you have lower impact and it moves to higher impact. And this lavender circle is around the things that have been shown to have the highest impact. So it's finding ways to bring more of these kinds of experiences for and with parents. And how to do that, we can't solve it in an hour, but it's something to think about. So we know that the things down on lower impact, if this is where our school is focusing its attention and resources, it's not going to change what's happening with bringing our parents in as much as if we can start finding ways to do these things. So, and the APPT model uses many of these. So we're sharing data, we're setting goals, we have very personalized communication, and we're modeling these support strategies. So what's really amazing, and I think, and this is what we'll end on because we are running out of time, but one of the takeaways that I think for all of our TAIL, Teaching Across Learning Environments modules, is before the pandemic, we mostly thought about these things as how do we have parents come here and do these things? And now we have started engaging in technology in such a way we can start thinking, how can I best tailor technology to help me support these things? So some parents can come here and do this. Some parents will not ever be able to come here and do this because of their schedules. How can I start employing thoughtfully technologies with my families to be able to do these higher impact activities? So the last thing that we have for today is goal setting, and that's thinking about how you might, to improve one of our foundations of trust, transparency, or capacity, add one small thing that you want to try and do for the rest of this school year to engage parents more as you start building with the information that you gained today. So you can be thinking about that, and I'm going to, you also have time for any comments or questions. I just want to share with you that you're here. We have 2 other courses on families. So if you want to know more about two-way communication or funds of knowledge, equity and access, collaboration and communication, coming in the next 2 Mondays, we'll have these. And on your note catcher, you have a link to Solved PD, where you can sign up for that free PD. And you also have a link to this survey, which helps us continue to improve our free professional development for you for the TAIL Academy. So I'm going to put that into the chat as well. This is the link to the professional development survey. So we have 2 minutes left. I'm happy for you to answer any questions or take any final comments. Please take a moment to open your link. And as soon as you do that, you will be able to, that's our final thing today. I want to end by saying you will get a follow-up email about your your credits, as well as all of the information from this professional development. So if you are unable to see the videos or hear them all, you will be able to do that. You will still have the links. You have your note catcher, but we'll send that as well. Thank you so much for being here today and engaging in this really important topic. Everyone have a wonderful afternoon. I'm here for a few more minutes, and so is Brooke if you need anything, but as soon as you have your professional development link, you may go on and have a wonderful afternoon.